Welcome to the CPG Guys podcast. Your hosts, Shri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage consumers in an increasingly digitally driven world. And now, here are the CPG Guys.
Podcasting live from Groceryshop 2024. Please welcome to the stage the hosts of the CPG Guys, Shri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, and special guest from Ahold Delhaize USA, Melissa Emerich.
Hey, everybody. How we doing? Welcome to Techtalks Stage here at Groceryshop. Very exciting. Shri, how you doing, man?
For the 8 of you that showed up, we're going to actually immortalize you on the CPG Guys. You're going to be famous. So thank you for showing up.
But Shri, have all of them subscribed to our podcast on Apple? Maybe they want to pull up their phones. I want to change thumbs up.
If you
scan QR codes.
I know. Austin. Austin's a great friend. Thanks for being
Austin,
here, man.
Thank you, Austin.
But for those of you that haven't followed us, we can change that in about 2 seconds, and all you have to do is scan. If Peter and I can get out of the way, you can scan.
There you go. All right. Go ahead.
Do this.
All right. Kick it off.
So our conversation today, we're privileged to have someone from Ahold Media, AD Media, Melissa Emerich. Normally, if you listen to us, you know there's an opening pre-roll, there's a closing pre-roll. We're not going to do that. My humble request to all of you that have actually shown up here today is your colleagues didn't, your friends didn't, but you can pass the word on that this will actually be a podcast on the CPG Guys. So look out for Melissa Emerich on the CPG Guys, and let's get off to the races.
Okay.
So, Peter, let me turn it over to you for question one, and let's get going.
All right. Melissa, let's well, first of all, welcome to the podcast. We're so happy to have you here. I want to set up a little bit about the industry. You know, obviously the retail space and retail media in particular has been transforming at a very rapid pace over the past couple of years. You know, what are the primary objectives that Ahold Delhaize retail media has? And we had your colleague Bobby Watts on a couple of years ago. Like, what's new? What's changing? Where are you taking this tool that allows you and brands selling through you to really engage consumers shopping at all the banners?
Yeah, well, first, I'd like to thank you for having me here. You have a great following. We enjoy listening to your podcasts, and you're right. A lot has happened in the past 2 years. We've really, to respond to the changes in the industry, we've taken a hard look at our retail media practice, and we've really grown and expanded it. So a first step for us, as so many retailers, as they dip their toe into this water, they work with partners to help augment the business. And we've really brought that, or starting to bring that practice in-house, and have added additional staff to it, in addition to your traditional things of like looking at capabilities and so on.
That's great.
I'm going to jump straight into the topic of our times. And so it feels that every retailer now has a retail media network. If you count them, it's 65 plus. And one of the most interesting things that's happened is measurement frameworks are all over the place. You ask, even retail will tell you, we don't have any consistent set of frameworks for measurement whatsoever. So if I asked you that question, what can a brand that's working with you expect in terms of measurement that actually can measure the ROI of the investments they make? What would you offer back to them? And how can you drive their confidence that investing with AD Media is the right thing to do for them?
Measurement, that is really the hot topic, right? And remains consistent a topic year over year. And I'm proud to say that we're very consistent in our measurement practices. Everybody that invests with us, works with us, can expect a final metrics readout report. And that's really important for us to, on that report, which we deliver within 6 weeks of every campaign, is to be very clear about how the measurement was arrived. So there's no surprises with us, and there's consistency with us.
And then in terms of follow-up, right? can a brand actually determine, sitting with you guys jointly, what constitutes an ROI, or is it always ROAS?
Another great question. We look at ROAS consistently across all. At any given time, a partner, a supplier, can log into their campaign portal and really take a look at what's happening in real time. What are the impressions that are being delivered? What are the clicks that we're seeing? And when you look at all of that together, and you have the conversation with the sales team in terms of what's happening with the overall business, right? Because there's so much emphasis and focus on ROAS, but at the end of the day, the goal is to drive product sales, right? And so having that conversation with the folks on our team and looking at what's happening to the business as a whole is something that you can always expect with us.
You used another very important metric in there. You said impressions.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a world of sales, and I would always make fun of all my marketers because that's what they tell me, impressions. And I'm like, yeah, that's how you escape and you're never held accountable. I've changed my mind in the last 18 months. Most large brands today are struggling for volume, and the way they flip that is they need upper funnel impressions. Do you believe now that search drives lower funnel activation, but impressions is equally important? Because if you don't reach the audience, how are you ever going to convert?
I agree, and I'm a bit biased. My entire career has been in the advertising world, not necessarily grocery, because you do have a lot of folks in that space that view it through the lens of a merchant, and it's always about impressions. And something that I like to say to folks, when you're watching a Super Bowl ad, and you know what vendors are paying to participate there, they're not counting sales, they're not counting eyeballs. It's really about how you've reached the audience and influenced them.
And I've got to imagine, depending upon what your brand objective is, the KPI differs. If I'm launching a new product, ROAS or ROI may not be the important KPI. It's going to be more about the awareness side of things. So I have to imagine you tackle every campaign as an individual objective.
Absolutely. What defines success is different upon the goal. You mentioned a new item, for example. That's about driving trial, right? So it's about getting that product exposed. And I don't know, for folks that maybe have children, sometimes you try a new food item the first time and you don't like it, but you need that second time.
I keep trying to get my daughter to try something other than chicken nuggets and pizza. I'm like 0 for 45 so far. This is not good.
You can try French fries.
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Sri.
Potatoes, they have starch. Good for you.
So I want to go back to measurement in particular. So the IAB has been very forward over the last couple of months, trying to build some standards around measurement, but it's still pretty much a little bit of the Wild West. Would love to know AD Retail Media's thoughts around standardization. Do you embrace it? Are there particular components that you think, and why do you think it might be important to the industry?
Well, I think suppliers have a tough time when they're evaluating their investment, and then one conversation, it's apples to oranges, and we really want it to be apples to apples. Yeah, it's critical. And so we've taken the stance that we are active participants in the IAB.
Mm-hmm.
Margaret Kittredge on our team leads that effort, and she's been involved actually in this for many, many, many years. And taking that a step further, it's not just important to our U.S. practice, but also our Dutch brands as well.
Of course.
Yeah, so
I've got to imagine that part and parcel of that is a word I hear very frequently, which is transparency. What does that mean to you?
To me, transparency means being incredibly clear about what is being measured and how it's being measured.
No black boxes. Here's the KPI. You don't need to know how we calculated it.
No, because what is that conversation going to get for you in the end, right?
No. And I think that's, when you're talking, and to some degree that allows you to have the conversation with a brand manager that helps them adjust their marketing budget, knowing that they have that confidence. So it's no longer a trade conversation. It's about, we need to talk about the shopper. Shopper's at the center. It's not about that. You need to have what you need to measure, to get confidence in our platform as a mechanism to communicate with our shoppers.
Right. It's about being a trusted partner, which we value a lot. And just to feed off of something you mentioned, I was in a conversation just a few hours earlier with a supplier, and they're fighting to get more dollars, right? They want more dollars to support these efforts. And if you can't provide transparency and measurement and show what return is, they're not able to get those dollars. So it's not just for our customers, but it's also to assist our suppliers.
Very good.
What's another observation, such an observation in the last 12, 18 months is brands have finally understood that they need to own retail media. It can't be sales teams. And I was guilty, last 4 years running a sales team very much of kind of saying, stay away.
I'm waiting for the Law and Order doink doink.
Let's do it.
Doink doink.
Thank you. So that said, this measurement world, I got to imagine what was important yesterday, which was lower funnel. With brands coming in now, the single most important metric is going to be brand goals as opposed to just ROAS. ROAS could be one of those metrics for a brand. And if you use that as a backdrop, that brands are now owning retail media, you're a retailer. From your lens, what constitutes a successful media campaign? What do you expect out of brands so that you can drive common success, which is at the end of the day for your customer?
Yeah, I think everything that we do at Ahold Delhaize is to drive value for our customer. And so the incremental revenue derived from retail media, while incredibly important to our organization, can't be at the expense of the customer.
Is that like the biggest conversation now? Can you drive incremental revenue for me? Or is that a merchant conversation or a brand conversation?
Right now, it's a brand conversation. That incrementality is really important. But I think just taking a step back in the organization, if we rewind 4 years ago, it's about here's our solution set. Here's what we'd like you to do. And really, we'd like to look at the data. We'd like to understand the goals of the brand and then put forward a strategy that aligns with those goals. Because as we talked about earlier, Peter, it can be about innovation. It can be about tentpole events. It could be about a number of things. And so what activation points do we have that work and drive success for the supplier?
I know 3 gentlemen sitting in the vicinity who probably were guilty of creating the word IROAS 2 years ago and made too much noise out of it. So there's the measurement aspect. Sounds like incremental revenues, the way discussions are happening with brands. What about the creative element? Is it equally important that when retail media is put out, like a banner ad, has to be the best creative that exists on planet Earth? Or is that not as robust and not as required from a retail lens?
Yeah, our suppliers love when we tell them that the creative they supplied might not generate what they had hoped to generate, really. And so touching upon the incrementality, it's for us, it's the growth of the category, right? The health of the category. That tactic influences, but when we think about the creative, it plays such an incredibly important piece of it. And as we think about the products that we're developing, how do we continue to develop new products that enhance the creative experience?
And just to close, what's important, a merchant has certain things important to them, and the most important thing to a merchant is category growth. Mm-hmm. That's not necessarily what a brand is thinking about. How do you bring both together in a retail media campaign, or is that even top of mind?
It's becoming top of mind for us. And they've been very disparate conversations within our organization. Rarely, I think most of the suppliers here will attest, do you have a supplier in a room with a retail media affiliate with a merchant, right? It doesn't happen. But we're really spending a lot of time in our organization working with those merchants to marry the two together.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about ad inventory, particularly considering that with grocery retail, the inventory manifested itself originally in on-site search-based product listings and what have you. but increasingly to get brands more interested and to compensate for the decline in traditional linear television and print media, having offsite media that's driven by the data of purchasing behavior is very, very important. So with that in mind, how is AD Retail Media developing in terms of its offsite partnerships for ad units? What does the inventory picture look like?
Yeah, so our inventory today, our premier publishing network is our offsite, which is powered by Epsilon, and that really does utilize our first party data. So fantastic way to target directly. But when we think about the needs of our suppliers and how do you engage with those customers, there's a couple needs that have arisen, and we're working towards addressing those. And one is we've talked about linear TV, but social. We know the growth that's happening in social today, and how do we grow and expand upon that?
How do you inspire people on social to then purchase at any one of the AD Retail Media banners?
Exactly. And so it's been your traditional social ad on Meta or Pinterest. And then how do you infuse influencer content into that? And how do you engage and ideally?
And then at the end, how do you measure that? Because if you do it without being able to bring it back to the actual closed loop measurement,
it gets tough.
The brand's like, okay, show me. Why don't I just spend money on social media? What do I need you for?
What do you need us for? And that's something we are actively working on. Another great conversation I had today is there is a path. I will tease the audience with that. There is absolutely a path to how we can include social in measurement.
Ooh, Shri, I hear a follow-up episode coming on board.
100%. Let's do it. But I want to go where merchants want to go. Top of mind. It was top of mind for me when I worked for General Mills in the industry. And that's the in-store piece. Retail media, great. Lower funnel activation online. The story is only partially complete without the in-store component. What comes top of mind when you think in-stores, digital screens? Is that all in-store retail media is just digital screens? There's got to be a whole lot more.
There is a whole lot. What we like to think about with the customer interaction is meeting the customer where they are. And that could be the screens in store. That could be as they're in line shopping. What are they hearing? What are they experiencing? It's in-store audio. We know today that 80%, at least in our organization, of sales happen in store. So you engage the customer where they are online. It could be digital out of home. It could be the Volta screens before entering. But then what are they experiencing in the store? And how do you tie that message together? So it's consistent message that reinforces what the merchants want the customer to understand. They know, our audiences, we didn't talk about at the beginning, but we've got 24 million loyal customers. Some of our brands in our markets, the Giant Company, for example, over 100 years in business. It all comes back to that customer and the relationship with the brand, and that relationship, that interaction happens in the stores.
I think the most key takeaway word there is the consistency. Because the way retail media originated, it was a digital thing, quote unquote, and the messaging was different from the in-store messaging. Times have changed, though. They're starting to come together. But I think now more than ever, given the shopper is truly omnichannel, whether that's in-store or whether that's online, the messaging cannot deviate at all whatsoever. That's everything from pricing, brand purpose, everything about the brand, aisle in store, like all of it comes together, and the messaging needs to stay consistent.
It comes back to that creative question that you talked about, right? And how do you, when you're planning a full omni-channel campaign, how do you tie in the creative? Right now, something that's incredibly important to our customers is value. You mentioned that price messaging. How do you take a QR code that's on a shelf ad and directly linked to the coupon for the customer? But then as they walk through that store, how do you tie that in even to the screens in store and out store? And we're doing a lot of work in that space.
Connectivity in store. Now you're talking our language. I like that. Yeah. So I want to talk about when Shri and I talk to brand marketers, it's almost reflexive when we ask them about how do you invest in retail media. Well, the first thing they say is, well, I need a national scale. I need that. And my question to you is, AD Retail Media represents banners that are basically the powerhouse on the East Coast of the United States. How do you talk to brand marketers about why a super regional like Ahold Delhaize and the banners are an important part of their investment portfolio?
Yeah, I love the fact that you said super regional, because
Super regional.
thank you. Regional means certain things to certain folks, but
Sure.
when we think about those national brand dollars and you think about the East Coast and you think about those DMAs that are incredibly important to any successful campaign, we
New
have
York
them.
City,
Yes.
the Metro New York area, big place.
Yeah. And you can do that with a really efficient buy through our network.
Yeah, good.
You're trying to make a point that New York is a big place. Nobody knew that, Peter.
Start
Thanks.
spreading the news.
Hey,
I'm leaving
There's the
today.
big takeaway today.
I'll be playing
Oh,
at the Tropicana.
finally he agrees the Yankees are the world champions.
I'll be
Thank you.
playing at the
27
Tropicana. Oh
times.
no, I won't. That's over. So
27 championships. Dodgers won.
Dodgers rule,
Kidding.
Yankees drool.
So let's talk about partnerships with brands, because we've said multiple times, brands, marketers are actually now starting to own this stuff, right? And they historically should have anyway. How is that working out when it comes to a merchant for AD USA? Because is it done through JBPs? Is there another mechanism? Or is it still there's a omni-channel JBP separate from the actual full 360 JBP? How's that working out?
So we, in two ways, I like to think about this. We have our traditional JBPs, and they happen with those suppliers that are, those integral business relationships. But you can only go so far with that, right? And so I'm sure you talk to brand marketers. You've heard Ahold Delhaize, 5 different brands, 5 different conversations. It can be tough to navigate. We'll
5 JBPs.
Yeah, we'll say it out loud. And so what you will see over the next year within our organization is a really concerted effort to bring it all together. And all together is not just the merchant conversation. It's not just retail media. It's also shopper marketing, and it's also loyalty. So we're coming together and planning together and doing that during the critical time of year. So you're having really one business conversation as opposed to these disparate
That
conversations.
is so important, because too often I hear, talking to a brand, yeah, I went and spoke to the merchant, and then I went and spoke with the retail media, and then I went back to the merchant, and I kept getting different stories from each. Consistency will drive collaboration, and it will drive performance.
It will. And what's fun? Explaining our world to a merchant.
Oh, yes. Always. Hey, listen, I want to close this out talking about the future of the industry and retail media and how AD in particular sees this. What particular growth areas are you focused on? Is it, more offsite digital? Is it in-store? Is it connected streaming television? Like, what really has you focused on what you think is going to help continue the explosive growth that we're seeing in retail media?
Yeah, it's CTV that we're definitely a part of that, and it's an important piece of a strong media plan. But when we think about almost the next wave, if you will, we talked a little bit about in store and our connected. I like to think of it as a connected commerce.
Ooh, I like that term.
Conversation, right?
Yeah.
Because we also say the store is the spine and everything kind of builds around that. But when we also think about our offsite activation points, we recognize that there is a need for flexibility. So when we think about democratizing our data and how we adapt and allow suppliers to engage with the DSP of their choice, if you will, that's another area that we're looking at.
Awesome.
How many times did we say the word in-store? About 17 and a half, 0.336, 0.4.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I do want to hit back up on in the in-store element, not so much retail media as the assortment element. When click and collect is the primary mechanism for e-commerce, why has the planogramming mechanism and how the shelf looks not changed in years, because even ADUSA employees are just picking from a store shelf. And shouldn't there be some sort of an element to change that in the future?
Well, I like to think that we've changed it a little bit, right? We've got the digital shelf. We've extended it into the e-commerce world. And I think that there's always ways to look and adapt that piece of the business. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you think maybe that's an opportunity for change in the
Yes,
future?
ma'am. And there's a reason I said that. That's because I wear two avatars. I also have another company called Think Blue Consulting, where we are accelerator partners with a legendary new space.
You hear him drop that
Planning
advertisement? Boy, that was subtle.
345 Global, booth 1601B. The in-store world does need to change, especially there is no reason.
My singing's not sounding so bad
There's
anymore.
no reason assortment should be sitting on the shelf if it's just picked. That's just wasted space. So come check us out at 1601B. Thank you. I know you did this on very short notice. Peter and I cannot thank you enough for actually listening to us, giving us this opportunity to have you here on stage and representing Ahold USA AD Media especially. Sincerely, thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
And to everyone in the audience, thanks as well. We really appreciate you being here. Enjoy the rest of the Grocery Shop conference.
And as I mentioned earlier, for your colleagues and your friends, please pass the word on that if they aren't here, they can always catch this episode coming soon. Part of Women's Month next month on the CPG Guys. Only female leaders. Melissa, you will be part of Women's Month next month.
Thank you,
Thank
Melissa.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.